Will a Sanders save us again in a season where Steve Lutz says stats lives matter? And bye, Felicia, to Boynton Ball. But first, we have a top five, then the next five to watch in a season where the Cowboys should be a top five team in the CFP.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we're partially brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Get in on the Gametime ticket action today. We get to shift gears back into football. But not only that, let's talk about some of the Cowboys that everybody in the country should be paying attention to. This is pretty easy to start off with. Five Cowboys, statistically speaking, and just kind of the eyeball test. Number one, of course, offensively is Ollie Gordon, who's already rushed for 2,040 yards, 23 touchdowns, averaging over 7.1 yards per carry in his time at Oklahoma State. Right behind him, number two's got to be BP Brennan Presley with 2,548 yards, receiving 16 TDs on top of another 1,456 yards in the return game. BP's number two. Number three, I underestimated him, so we've got to elevate him today. That is Rashad Owens. He's got 1,256 receiving yards as a Cowboy, 6 touchdowns, averaging well over 13 yards per clip. And he's gone from 30 pounds up and 30 pounds down and 30 pounds back up again twice, from Cowboy back to tight end to run blocking to goal line scheming guy. Rashad Owens has done a little bit of everything. This is the season that he takes that next leap. And for what we have seen thus far, that is going to happen. Number four, the main man down low, Dalton Cooper. We always talk about the 1,368 snaps that he was able to play at Texas State without giving up a sack. Goodness me, words are hard. I apologize. He only allowed 7 sacks in over 4 years of playing collegiate football. Number five, another individual that I underestimated was Alan Bowman. I did not think that he could find a way to get better in the pocket 7 years into playing the game, but he has, partially due to his 8,720 yards in 3 different systems, 58 touchdowns, the 32 interceptions. Has got to get cleaned up a little bit this year. But again, he's fixed his platform. He's fixed his issues inside the pocket that should alleviate his propensity to want to bail outside of it. And then we have an honorary guy in A.J. Green. A.J. Green was going to be the dude that was the lightning package to Ollie Gordon this season. Unfortunately, an injury popped up, and we're not going to see A.J. this season. Here's 5 more to watch for. The next 5 up has got to be Dejon Stribling. His 1,270 yards and 11 touchdowns that he brings with him into this season cannot be understated. That the fact is, coming into week 3, week 4 last year, he was the dude. He was the leading receiver that seemed to be the next guy in line to follow in that Dez, Tay Martin, Marcel Aitman style of Leon Johnson tree. This season, our wide receiver core should be able to do more, and Dejon Stribling is going to be very much a part of that. Number 2 on the next to watch list has got to be Joe Michalski. The dude's played 1,035 snaps last season, leading all of college football in the Power 4. He had 617 pass blocking snaps last season without allowing a single sack. He led the 7th-ranked offensive line in America in not giving up sacks, making him the Iron Man of the group, coming back once again to make this magical run even better. Number 3 is Dewan Lofton. Dewan Lofton coming over from Virginia Tech. He's not going to wow you right around the 400 yards range, bringing in his talents from Virginia Tech. But thus far, this offseason, the packaging that we're very excited about at this point in time last season for somebody like Arlen Bruce has now been carried over by DeJuan Lofton. So we're expecting a lot of big things out of him, even though he's going to be playing behind Brennan Presley. He should have the opportunity to pop up in some 4-wide situations as well. Number 4 on the list, we've talked about him several times, so he doesn't need a massive introduction, but Trent Howland, the dude who led Indiana in rushing last season, as the designation of a big bruising power back. Of course, from a size perspective, 6'3", 240, he's going to fit that mold. But he also has the capability to lower his shoulder and do a little bit more. He's not as elusive as Elijah Collins, but he's not as far back from Elijah Collins as maybe some people believe because of his size. He's going to be big this season. We're going to have to spell Ali a significant amount this year. And if Sesi Velahe isn't the speed package we're looking for immediately, then Trent Howland's going to carry a much bigger load. Somebody who else needs to carry a bigger load this season is Tyler Foster. Once again, statistically, what he brings over from Ohio is not going to wow you. But the 6'7", 240-pound frame should be able to carry over where Josiah Johnson left off last year. Those are the offensive fellas. Let's flip over to the D. Number 1, too easy, Nick Martin. 156 tackles, 6 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 picks for 40 yards, averaging 20 yards per return. Number 2, his linebacker buddy, Colin Oliver. 130 tackles, 22.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, and the 0 interceptions will not last in 2024. This is the year that Colin gets his mitts on a ball and brings it home. Number 3 has got to be KD, Kendall Daniels, the 6'4", 242-pound safety that can easily come provide some stuff up in the box, a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage that'll allow him to react more than read per se. Physically, he looks like a top 3 NFL draft pick. He's got to sift through the eye discipline and make sure that he's picking the right gaps to shoot through. If he does that, he's going to have a monster season. If it takes him a little while to kind of, disseminate through the information and decide which hole he needs to pick, that should be something that progresses as the year goes on. Number 4, the big man, Justin Kirkland, the guy who can lift mountains and move houses, should be in for a massive season. Guys, we all know that whenever you're looking at Justin Kirkland last season, he was asked to operate off the KISS method, the area of operation, eat up double teams, create more lanes for the guys behind you. This season, I expect him to do a lot more because they're asking him to do a lot more. Number 5, Lyric Rawls, the dude who everyone seems to be forgetting when people talk about Oklahoma State having 20 returning starters. The dude, Lyric Rawls, is also coming back, to my knowledge, making him number 21. He was the starter. He was the guy. Yes, he was able to kind of allow some of the younger cats to shine a little bit last season, but let's not forget that this is the same Lyric that's been starting for multiple years that's ready to make this contribution this season even bigger as he's gotten bigger. Honorary top 5's got to be Justin Wright. Yes, he's a bad mamma jamma. Yes, he brings over 220 some odd tackles in less than 2 years with him from Tulsa. But his rehab process, to my knowledge, hasn't gone super swimmingly. His rehab process was a little slower than anticipated, which did allow some more guys reps like a Gabe Brown. I think that's going to be massively beneficial as the season wanes on, but I don't know if he's 100% quite yet. I think he is, but I know in the spring maybe he wasn't operating at 100%. So I'll be excited for him to chew off the kneecaps. All right, number 1 for the next to watch list has got to be Colin Clay, right? Again, statistically, these guys aren't going to blow everybody's minds. 45 tackles, 16 is the most he's had in NCAA football. I think that he will break that this season somewhat easily. Guys, Colin Clay and Justin Kirkland have a legitimate competition to who's going to get the bulk of snaps in a 3 down front situation. Obviously, Iman Oates and Aiden Kelly are also going to be pretty instrumental in how that defensive line shakes out. But Colin Clay is a dude that typically would be the mainstay here. But because we have Justin Kirkland, we have a 1A, 1B situation. Number 2, ready to watch, Obi Zegbo. We've talked about him a multitude of times. He brings 104 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, 18.5 sacks, and multiple fumble-causing plays with him from Gannon. Don't let the 6'2" fool you. The dude can get out in the flats, and he can get upfield to get to the quarterback in a hurry. I cannot wait to see how we utilize him, especially with Colin Oliver some of the other guys that we have at our disposal. Number 3, to pay attention to the most, got to be Corey Black. This is the year. You are the guy. You've been doing the daggone thing since you were a freshman. You showed the talent as a freshman to be able to not only see the field, but make a significant contribution. This is the year that the seniority and the maturity finally matches up to the athletic prowess and talent that he has. Right next to him is got to be Cam Epps. Cam Epps was one of those guys when Lyric went down, was able to shine a little bit last season. I think he hit the ground running very early on, and as the season progressed, you got to see the Smith fellas in there alongside somebody like a Cam Epps. So I don't know if it was necessarily him tailing down or if it was just guys kind of catching up, but this season it'll be pretty interesting to see what Cam Epps is able to do. Number 5, this is a two-way tie. I went back and forth, so I'm just going to call it. Jaleel Johnson and Deshaun Brown will battle it out for this fifth. How high I am at Deshaun Brown. I think he's a future NFL physical talent that just needs to kind of come out of his shell a little bit more. He has been reserved, quiet, kind of shy. This season, he needs to be the dude that breaks every offensive tackle he sees on the season, because Jaleel Johnson is right there with him. This dude coming over from Putnam City, he's got the size. He's gained over 35 pounds since he's been a Cowboy. You should be able to see that on the field this season real quick, fast, and in a hurry. Those are the Cowboys' top 5 on the team, top 5 to watch as the season is about to get underway. Mike Boynton, he added a lot of headaches to Cowboy fans last season, but Steve Lutz is already doing some things to separate himself from the man that they call Mike Boynton. But real quick, I would be remiss if I didn't remind you guys that you have to get prepared for the ticket buying season. As the ticket buying season is upon us, you have to get squared away with Gametime tickets today. It is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. And if you want to go see Jackson Holiday drop more bombs, go get your tickets with Gametime. You can pick out specific games ahead of time, or if you want to see a matchup right then and there, you can do that, because the deals get better even an hour after the game, the pitch, or the kickoff. Because last-minute tickets are the best thing in the industry. You can save up to 60% by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, music, and theater. The seat view. You know how I feel about the panoramic view from the seat, so you know exactly what you're getting before you show up. There's no hanky-panky of being put in the wrong spot. Take the hanky-panky and the guesswork out of you buying Major League Baseball or every other ticket with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create that account, redeem that code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Get rocking and rolling today. You will not regret it. Just like you also won't regret having your meals ready to go and then being healthy enough to make it make sense to take them on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, Factor has you covered. It's getting warmer, and maybe getting behind the grill isn't as fun when it's super hot. That's okay. Factor's no prep, no stress meals has you covered. Meet all of your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Crush your wellness goals this May with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Head on over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Use that code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your very first box, plus 20% off your very next month. That's LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com. Again, factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 for that 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Speaking of being active, Cowboy basketball is active, as they should be, because they have a rough stain after last season, right? It can be remedied this year. The expectations for Cowboy basketball might go up and might go down, but one thing that we need to pay attention to is the shooting. Last season, with the basketballs having the chips that stat every single shot that's taken, it was very frustrating to understand that we can shoot all we want and somehow never get better at shooting, that we can shoot more free throws than we ever thought we would beginning of the year and still not get better in the free throw department. How is this all statistically tracked and we just not be very good? Well, Steve Lutz says stats, lives matter. And in the stat track that is, used by several, if not most of collegiate basketball programs, have these statistics that they can grade against other places, other schools that use the same technology. Out of all the schools in the country, Oklahoma State put up the most shots, over 60,000 in a very short amount of time. And Steve Lutz even said, if you can put up this number, being number one in the country and utilizing the statistical information available to us and taking the most amount of shots in the country, if you do that again over the summer, this next season could be better than just being okay. It could be better than just making it out of the basement, the cellar of where we were this last season in basketball, or where we have been recently. Recruiting has not been a problem. With Steve Lutz, we can't say, at least thus far, that the recruiting has been the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now, making a top 8 from a 4-star recently, as we talked about yesterday, that could be a very big deal. But there's plenty on this roster, including Bryce Thompson, that can turn this season completely on its head. And Bryce Thompson can go from an Okie, a 5-star All-American who did not choose to stay home and be a Cowboy, right? He left us for KU just to come back, just to fall short of all of the expectations and all of the hype surrounding him. He came back this season. So I think we can see a completely different version of Bryce Thompson this year. He can completely change the perception on his career as a Cowboy this season, strictly by what he does this year. The toughness, the discipline, the leadership, the commitment to effort, the commitment to your craft, the commitment to defense, right? You've seen something pop out recently of Steve Lutz being mic'd up in practice. And he said, bring the intensity, bring the energy, everything else we can kind of work on. But if you don't bring the physicality, the intensity, and the energy in the Big 12, you will get knocked around. So this Eddie Sutton, put on the football pads and go to war. This is exactly what we were hoping we would get. And, it wasn't always going to be rainbows, lollipops in the locker room. I'm sure if you're not used to being worked to this degree, it can get stressful. It can become difficult. And at the end of the year, if you have something to show for it, then it makes sense. And then Steve Lutz is the guy that we needed him to be, which is a big feather in the cap, in my personal opinion, for Chad Weiberg. Speaking of some gentlemen that can add some feathers in the cap in basketball alone, guys, Jamiron Keller might be the biggest returning guy. Connor Dow could end up being a sharpshooter that is used very early on. I think Arturo Dean is a very good transfer that can kind of fill in for something that John Michael Wright was able to provide, and then even maybe take it to a completely different level. Regardless, I do believe Steve Lutz is the guy. Just like I believe that there's still a Sanders out there that can not save, maybe not even salvage, but solidify where we currently stand in the recruiting landscape, because dipping a little bit. Okay, we've been dipping a little bit. That's all right, though. What is not all right is you not being the MVP of everything, because you can't be the MVP of anything if you can't get you there. The right passion, the right drive, the right patience is a necessity in building a championship formula. It's the same with your ride or die vehicle. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle. You can level it up, peak performance with superchargers. You can even go with roof racks, LED lighting kits, and more. Speed, power, style, doesn't matter. eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you can keep your number one ride or die rig alive always and forever with the eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your rig every time or your money back. We want you burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, all the prices you want, it is super simplistic to turn your rig into the MVP today. Bring home that W by keeping your ride or die vehicle alive at ebaymotors.com. Make sure you go there today, ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit available for U.S. customers because you guys are special, right? You know that. Our recruiting has not been super special recently. The loss of Adam Schobel, the fact that Michael Turner Jr. decided to take his talents to flipping Baylor. And then where do we sit now? We went from being number 20, 21, 26, 28, right around there, pretty consistently, to like number 33. And now if you look 247, we're right at 49, 50-ish. That's not where we want to be. And the only way that we save the number for this recruiting cycle is if we get Jayden Sanders. The Texas safety is ready to be a Cowboy. It's a good time for him to be a Cowboy. And I will say this. If there's anybody out there that does give you the warm and fuzzies in the recruiting department on potentially landing some guys, to me, it's got to be Brian Nardo. Brian Nardo's the guy that if you can bring home Jayden Sanders or Nusi Taumoi-Piao, you get the combination of those, and we're right back where we need to be. One of those two does a lot for this recruiting class. Both of those two kind of puts us back to where we expected to be coming into the season. But 2026 might have some fellas that strike sooner than some of these 2025 guys that we're going to be inevitably relying on. The number one player in the state of Oklahoma for 2026 could be a Cowboy. I think you could argue he should be a Cowboy. But Colton Yarbrough has several teams to choose from. The 6'6", 245-pound defensive end with an 81.5-inch wingspan with 34.5-inch arm length could become a Cowboy. But he also could be leaning more towards Georgia is what I'd gather. Maybe a backdoor chance for Arkansas. But making top fives, it's not much of a consolation prize. CJ Nixon kind of hurt my heart. That John Schobel, Adam Schobel stuff hurts even more. Coleman Patman going to Arizona, that's just crazy talk. So, yeah, there's a possibility, right? We're in the top five. You got to make it. And seeing, Georgia, Arkansas, LSU all kind of clumped together, it's a sign of good times. But as you can tell, I'm not vocally getting super pumped because I don't want to have my heart stomped on the ground from somebody who's likely to be a Georgia guy. Just like if you look at another top five, a 3-star prospect out of MacArthur High School. He put Oklahoma State in his top five as well, alongside Baylor and Kansas State and Mizzou, Arkansas. Don't have a good pulse on this, right? So I can't speak one way or the other on what direction he's going to go. Making top fives was cool, right? A couple years ago. Now's the year of capitalization. We need to capitalize on the recruiting game as well. I will say that the success of the season will have a hand in the final National Signing Day class and whatever 247 numerical value is associated with it. We've got time. We've got eyes on some of the right guys. As long as we get Tatum Deuce Bell to kick off the 2026 class alongside Tatum Evans, I'm a happy camper. All righty, y'all. I reckon that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe on podcast. And folks, you know what to do. Hit the stars, leave a review. And when you're done with this, go check out the Locked On Network as Locked On Thunder is ready to talk about basketball and make some offseason moves that maybe you should tune into as well. All righty, y'all. You know the drill. We're out of here. So later, my taters.